Once again, the clock strikes 12 and the stars shine ripe for wishing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the prime nighttime show for time travelers and explorers of the stars. Hello, my loyal listeners and fellow insomniacs. I'm your host, Layne Raconteuse, and you're listening to the Midnight Rhapsody.
The following programming is not intended for those who are not time travelers, world walkers, or reality hoppers. The producers of the Midnight Rhapsody cannot be held accountable for existential crises, bizarre dreams, or delusions of grandeur that may come of enjoying this program. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's report of the Midnight Rhapsody. It is so good to be back. The time is now just past 12. Let's go. So, the headlines tonight. We have a new exhibit at the High Museum, hosted by the Institute of Free Time Travelers. It will be open in the morning. Stay tuned to hear about that. There were explosions last night in Glenarvan, out by Lord Ruthven's castle, I believe. I've got a full report waiting for you. Afterwards, we have an interdimensional travel advisory that I need to tell you about. Make sure you stick around to hear about that. It's very important. And finally, last but not least, as per usual, I will be reporting on all new openings in our town and helping you prepare for the new year as it rolls in. Stay tuned. All this and more after a word from our sponsors. Are you tired of tranquil days? Need a little spark back in your life? And an end to peace and quiet? Try Dr. Doyle's newest nerve tonic, guaranteed to stretch you to your wits' end. It will restore to you stress and heart-pounding panic, and all the things you didn't miss from your glory days. Order now. Available for only a limited time. So, there's one theory in particular that every self-respecting time traveler nowadays knows, and that is string theory. The theory that all people, places, and events are bound together by intangible strings. These strings are color-coded by a standard method. Red for connections between souls, yellow for money, green for natural events, blue for ordinary, everyday decisions, and black for events that are utterly unchangeable. Well, the Institute of Free Time Travel has now set up an exhibit on string theory in the High Museum, and this one is rather exciting. It's following the lifetimes of two specific people, Johann Balthazar, the most infamous tyrant known to the local group, and the freedom fighter, Harriet Thumble. As we all know, Harriet was the one to overthrow the vile Johann, but you may be interested to know, a red thread was found connecting those two. They were destined to meet, we know, and had their lives not drawn them to the battlefield, how else might that red thread have been realized? Anyway, the exhibit will be open in 2 days' time. Make sure to come early, and you can get a 30% off discount on admission. Also going on nearby, the Calligraphers Guild is opening up just across the way from the High Museum. In fact, it's right next to the Morpheus House on Main Street in Old Town District. I'll be visiting them frequently, as I have just learned they don't just specialize in illuminated manuscripts and fine lettering. They're also the best cryptographers in ordinary. Their motto is Arte Magica Facienda, which means artistry of secrecy. Now, before I get to more pressing matters, I better tell you what was going on last night in Glenarvan. You see, there were explosions and shouting heard last night in Glenarvan district right around Lord Ruthven's castle, followed by general mayhem, and everything abruptly quieted down at sunrise. Listen up, folks, I know exactly what was going on. Someone was bothering Lord Ruthven again. There are warnings around Glenarvan Castle warning trespassers not to enter. Besides, Ruthven has amnesty in this city. I'm telling you, the Helsing sisters sent me a statement this morning saying that any wannabe vampire hunters had better stick to rooting around the City of the Dead, which is outside Edge city limits. Lord Ruthven is a protected citizen of Edge. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, if the Helsings are telling you no, then you may not hunt him. And if you lob a vial of holy water at him or threaten him with a crucifix, then he is entitled to the same use of deadly force for the sake of self-defense as the rest of us. For heaven's sake, he's a poet, not a monster. Leave him to enjoy his unlife in peace. Local absurdities aside, I've got a report of trouble on a larger scale abroad for you. There is now an interdimensional travel advisory in effect on Edge. You see, the Spectre system is exhibiting extreme aggression against anyone traveling within their jurisdiction that isn't one of their employees. This has led to the City of Edge and the Council to enact an emergency status for all citizens of Edge currently traveling abroad in the Spectre system, and a highly alert status for all citizens traveling within that local sector. If you have a friend or a loved one currently traveling in the region of the continuum from below Shangri-La to above the Hollow World and beyond the edge of Limbo, contact them immediately and arrange passage home. Our city's mobile police force under Joe Fallow is now standing by to enact search and rescue operations. This is not a drill, folks. Anyway, I don't know what the Spectre system is up to, but I think it's the Circle again. As we all know, the foreign power, known as the Circle Authority of Portal Travel, has tried in the past multiple times to gain a monopoly on all portal travel and faster-than-light communication on this end of the megaverse. They may be starting up this ambition again, and if that's the case, get your friends and family out of their reach. I've personally experienced the Circle's tender mercies, and they are not kind to their prisoners of war. Trust me on this one. Well, bad news for time travelers, but perhaps good news for the rest of us. There's a storm brewing that should stave off any prospects of war, at least until the cycle clears up. But if you intend to time travel, I'm sorry. This week's report on conditions for time travel. If you intend to go to the past on Terra, or anywhere nearby, quite frankly, you're out of luck. The Atlantis cycle is now in full effect, and we're expecting a full-blown Atlantis event this year. Oh yeah, you heard me. An Atlantis event. We haven't had one in better than a decade, and we're long past due. I've heard that this one will be the biggest on record this century, which is great news for treasure hunters, but bad news for time travelers. This means all the slipstreams you use will be badly disrupted, and all travel will be extremely dangerous. Make sure to recall anyone you know back from the past. Under no circumstances should anyone be future traveling at this time. Hazel's fashion magazine's last issue of the year is out now. Upcoming next season, corsets, waistcoats, and jeweler's loops. There's also a special report on the new upcoming wearable wings that someone's been making. Soon enough, the inventor warns, we won't be limited to foot traffic any longer. Our citizens will soar as these new affordable wings bring flight to the masses. After all, our rich and envied citizens have already been zooming about over our heads all this time. Soon enough, he promises, we'll be able to join him. The wings will be coming in classic Archangel, Dragonette, and Da Vinci styles. Get your copy of Hazel's today to find out more. So, speaking of fashion, here's a little gossip for you. The model Jacqueline Cincher has brought herself a quick rise to fame with her extreme living up to her own name. I mean it, she's put breathing itself out of style with her extreme corseting. Her waist size has finally gotten down to the circumference of a silver dollar. No other woman in the city, or in any other dimension I know of, can boast of a mere 3-inch waist. It's positively alien. And to be honest, I pity the poor bride of death. She keeps this up, she'll be seeing her groom soon enough. Though I'm sure if she has her way, she'll look fabulous even at the funeral. A new opening for the new year. The Mask and Rose Theatre now has competition for the midnight crowd that haunts the streets. To those of you who still find yourself unable to sleep after the Midnight Rhapsody is over, there are two choices. The Mask and Rose Theatre underneath the ruins of Burnett Manor, or now you can go up to the street below Galveston. A night of refined opera or theatre, or, for those craving something a little different, a Vampire Hours cabaret, dinner and a show promised for opening night tomorrow evening after dusk. Remember the name, Below Galveston. So, here's a New Year's story to warm your heart. We all know those tenement houses in Faber District, right? The ones only outdone by Slum Row over in Burnett. Well, as necessity breeds innovation, inevitably, out of the squalor there has grown a vibrant inventing community. I met a young woman the other day biking her way up a wall, vertically, in order to get to school a little faster. When I stopped her, she told me her mother had invented the new bike. Well, now her mother has a patent with the city office. Transportation in this city is really undergoing a revolution. So Some other local events coming up. Poker night is just 3 nights away in the Card House in Carroll Park. Make your way through the hedge maze to find me, among other distinguished guests. Games going on that night will include classic Lady Rose and my personal favorite, Mephistopheles. Be sure to RSVP early in order to be guaranteed a deck. Otherwise, bring your own. But be warned, they will inspect your cards before you're permitted through the door. Marked decks will get you kicked out and fined. No monetary bets will be permitted in this bi-monthly poker night. As usual, we're gambling on secrets. A few items rumored to be in the upcoming pots include a schematic to a trans-atmospheric airship and a map of the Akkadian borderlands, as well as other previously unknown secrets and pieces of knowledge. See you there. The winter solstice, besides marking the new year for us, also marks a new term for Crooked Bend Boarding School. The specialized boarding school is found at the end of Crooked Bend, down near Anonymous District, past the graveyard and dying orchard. The building itself is dilapidated and condemned, with ceilings falling in and vines growing up the walls, but that's perfect for what its purpose is. The school is specialized for ghosts, schools, vampire children, the offspring of a certain local mad scientist, and now I hear the 2 Luxley girls are starting their term there. Ah, yes, I nearly forgot to mention this. I have some new neighbors. My recording studio across from Carroll Park, commonly known as the Dollhouse, now has a black-painted Gothic manor planted in the next-door lot. The Luxley family has moved in, bringing a certain morbid charm with them. Yesterday, their youngest girl, Valerie, showed up on my doorstep with a gift of glowing green cookies. Yes, we checked them with a Geiger counter. They're radioactive, but the plutonium just added to the flavor, I say. I simply must ask Miss Luxley for the recipe. Alright, personal stories over. I've got one last demand to pass on from the City of Edge. All citizens of Edge are reminded that they must check in for their mandatory annual 3-day stay at the sanatorium. Remember, it's a proven fact that all citizens of our city are a little insane and in need of treatment. Sign up for your incarceration today before you forget. Remember, if you don't go willingly, the city will take you there and hold you extra time for negligence. I got my stay out of the way, and next year I'll be having my birthday party there. All my friends signed up for the same time. We've got the whole second wing of Ward A booked just for the occasion. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I've got promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Good evening, ladies and gents, and I'm so sorry, but our time is now coming to a close. This has been the Midnight Rhapsody. I'm your host, Layne Raconteuse, and I bid you a sweet good night and pleasant dreams.